Hello, everybody, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at who will be dethroning every single current WWE champion. Now, I went through WWE.com's official page of every current champion, and I looked at the rosters on Raw and SmackDown, looking at some storylines going on right now, and figured out who should beat everybody else. We're going to get started at the top with world titles and work our way down throughout the video. And as I said, we will be beginning with Cody Rhodes. Cody's been champion since Mania. I think this is a pretty obvious, story. I don't really need to explain how he's been doing. He's been champion since Mania. He's been in a feud with Solo. He's been in a feud with Kevin. He's been in a feud with Randy. But out of those three, I do think it will end up being Kevin to beat him eventually. I don't think it's going to be immediately, especially now that Cody is injured in story and Kevin is pretending to be world champion. It's probably not going to be until very early next year or just the very end of this year. I would expect it to probably happen at the Rumble, which could free Cody up for some match with The Rock at Mania. Then he could do Roman and Solo, whatever you want to do there. Nevertheless, Kevin is going to beat Cody at some point, likely at the Rumble. Now, do I think Kevin's going to hold on to that belt very long? No. But I do think that he will end up winning the belt. Then we move on to the World Heavyweight Championship, currently held by Gunther. And I got to be honest, I have not been watching WWE as much as I used to. Like, I'll throw it on occasionally or look at highlights, but I really do not watch all that often. So if any of these seem like out of the blue, just be aware of that when I explain who I think is going to be the winner. But as I was saying, Gunther, he's been champion for a minute now. I'm shocked Gunther is holding a title for a long time. I mean, when has he ever done that before? He's a transitional champion. Like, what are we doing? But no, Gunther is probably, in my mind, I was looking at a couple of people. I do think he's going to end up losing to CM Punk. Now, this was a feud that was brought up earlier on this year. It was around right after, it was right after Bad Blood, after Punk had finished with Drew. He was talking about how he was going to go after Gunther, but that hasn't really developed too much yet. I do believe they had an interaction on Raw, but other than that, I don't think they've had any intermingling. I don't know if it's going to be a Mania match. I don't know if it's going to be Chamber. Nevertheless, I do think it is going to be happening next year. I don't think it'll happen at Mania. I think it'll be before Mania, probably at Chamber, which can free up a Punk Seth Drew three-way for the World Heavyweight Championship at Mania for the night one main event. So you can get a lot done there. Punk gets his main event. You get the triple threat match we've been waiting for approximately 7,554 years. You get Drew another main event. You get Seth another main event, like an actual main event this time. And yes, he was in 40, but, a singles one. Nevertheless, Punk will be dethroning Gunther at some point, freeing up Gunther to get into a feud with a mid-card guy, beat him up, but lose to him at one random occasion for no reason to give that guy some oomph, and then go right back into the world title scene. So that's what I'm thinking here. Then we move on to the Women's World Champions with Liv Morgan. This one's pretty obvious. It's going to be Rhea Ripley. I don't think there's really any question about this one. It's really boring booking by Triple H, and this is something I wanted to discuss here so I could, A, have something to talk about for this section, and B, slightly pad the runtime of the video. It's just how things work. I think Triple H relies, and I saw this through Wrestle Talk as well, he relies a lot on, easy booking. Like, for example, if you go back to Clash at the Castle, he was like, I need a contender for the world title. Piper Niven is from Scotland. Piper Niven's going to contend for the title. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, Piper Niven getting a title shot, great. It got her some momentum. She didn't really go anywhere, but hey, momentum is momentum. And it's, in some occasions, it's a good thing to have. But at other times, it just feels like, oh, of course he's going to do this. Like, Liv and Rhea feels very easy booking. I think once Rhea got hurt, we all knew it was going to go. But still, I think you could have had something where Liv, while Rhea was gone, built up a genuine contender for that belt who, came really close to beating her. Then you can add some, Rhea coming back and everything, and that adds at least a little bit of suspense. But I think everybody knew the moment that Liv won this belt from an injured Rhea, that Rhea was going to be winning this belt back. Or from Becky, actually. Yeah, she won from Becky. I low-key forgot about that. Because Becky was, so long ago. She hasn't been on TV in forever. Nevertheless, we all knew Rhea was going to win this belt back. Whatever. We go on to the other Women's World Championship with Nia Jax over on SmackDown. This one I think is also a relatively obvious one that it's going to be Tiffany Stratton cashing in Money in the Bank. Now, I was thinking about how this was going to work. Would it be she cashes in Money in the Bank and just wins it? Or would it be she fails but then gets a rematch because Nia's mad at her and she earns it and then wins there? I think either one would be good. Tiffany does deserve getting a world title shot, at least a shot, hopefully winning it. Nia has been champion for a good amount of time, an appropriate amount of time, and I think she is set on her world title runs in wrestling. Maybe give her one or two more before she retires. But Tiffany, obviously a younger star, missed Money in the Bank, and Money in the Bank is 6 months away now. You still got a lot of time to do it. I don't know when you want to do it, but knowing Triple H, it's going to be at WrestleMania. Because if we go back to what I was just saying, easy booking. And WrestleMania 40, you have Damian Priest just cash in and it's a WrestleMania moment. He's cashing in Money in the Bank. Only the second time ever. And then they're just going to do it again this year. I think that's a reasonable possibility. I think the Raw after, SmackDown after is a reasonable possibility. Something I would like to see is like a big change up in a match. I don't think I've ever seen it happen before. But you know how you build up to a big match for a while before it ever happens? Normally, if it's at a bigger show like SummerSlam or Mania, you give like a month of build up for it. Have that, but then the week before the match, have that champion lose their title by a cash in. And then it's whoever just cashed in versus that person. That would be really interesting. It would be weird, but I think it could be an interesting way of spinning the Money in the Bank to be intriguing. And then whoever the beaten champion was could say, hey, I want my rematch clause. And then they could join in as a triple threat and have some fun with that. Nevertheless, Tiffany Stratton will end up cashing in and beating Nia Jax for the title. We move on to some mid-card belts now with Braun Breaker. Probably he's never actually going to lose it. He's probably just going to win a world title and then just relinquish the IC belt like Ultimate Warrior did. But going through the roster, I came up with Sheamus, I guess, so Sheamus can get his belt. Realistically, I don't think it's going to happen, but I needed to find somebody, and I was not too keen on picking Joaquin Wilde. So, Shamo, you get your belt, you get your Triple Crown or whatever it's called, and wins the IC title. Now, I think it's going to be a while before Braun loses. It's Braun Breaker. He's going to beat everybody up for a while. And I think Sheamus, he's already had his first little feud with Braun. I think you can carry it to Mania. It's a bit of a big ask, but I think you can bring it all the way to Mania. If you have a IC title elimination chamber, Sheamus and Braun are both in there, and Braun eliminates Sheamus last. That could be a good way to push it to Mania. But I have another way I want to do the chamber, which I will get to in a moment. Nevertheless, Sheamus will probably be beating Braun for the belt, or at least winning the belt after Braun relinquishes it. So one of the two things will happen, but nevertheless, Sheamus will get the title. And maybe it'll be passed on. Maybe it'll be just Braun says, hey, open challenge, whatever. You can just beat me. He's never going to say that, but I don't know. Sheamus is going to win the belt somehow. By magical wish making, he's going to ask a genie for the belt, and it's going to appear on his mantle. Nevertheless, he gets it up. U.S. title. Shinsuke Nakamura is the current champion, recently defeated LA Knight. And before I made this video, I looked at some SmackDown highlights from 2 weeks ago. And I saw how one guy was discussing what he wanted to do in 2025. But then he was attacked. And I think once he's done with the guy who attacked him, in presumably a tag match against the other guy that guy attacked, I think he can go for that U.S. title and win it in the Elimination Chamber, which is what I was mentioning a moment ago. Jimmy Uso. This is one I've been thinking about for 20 minutes now. Jimmy Uso, he's the worse Uso. I don't like saying it, but he is the lesser talented of the two. Jay is obviously better with connecting to the crowd. And I do think that is because Jimmy was hurt. If Jimmy wasn't hurt, I think they would be equal. But lost some time, all that. But I think Jimmy, he wins a number one, or not a number one contenders match, a qualifying match for the chamber, beats two other dudes, some randoms. He makes the chamber. He goes in fourth, and he does okay. He does a very Jimmy match. Like, he goes in, he does some like funny spots, and then he's like, "Oh, let's team up." Then he gets beat up or whatever, and then he makes it to the final three: Shinsuke, Jimmy, and I don't know, Carmelo Hayes. I don't know what to tell you. And then Melo's like about to hit a big move. Jimmy shoves him off. Shinsuke hits him with a Kinshasa. 1, 2, 3. Then it's just these two. They fight their way to a finish, and Jimmy ends up picking up the win with an Uso splash, probably off the top of one of the little pod things. But that's a very convoluted way of saying I think Jimmy can get this U.S. title. I don't think he's going to hold it for too long if he does win it, but I would like to see him win it so that he can get another moment like how Jay got the IC title. He can get the U.S. title and be equivalent with Jay in titles won. Fun enough, I guess. I just didn't really know who else was going to beat Shinsuke. So Melo could also do it. Just saying. Then we move on to the Women's United States Championship. Recently crowned champion Chelsea Green will likely lose it to the person she beat, Micha. I don't really know, if I'm being honest. Like, there are a lot of women who are, they're not world title contenders. They're not really jobbers, but they're somehow still not at the mid card level, and I don't know where to put them. Like, I was thinking about, like, do I want to be Katana Chance, Caden Carter? And I was like, I don't know if they're like that high. Chelsea's kind of a face and kind of heel. Michin's basically a face, but they're both faces. It's really, really weird. I don't know who's going to do it. I'm guessing it's going to be Michin so that she can get a belt. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think Chelsea's probably going to hold this for another 2 to 3 months. But I do think Michin will be the one to dethrone her when that time comes. And move on to the speed titles. No one really cares about these, so I just picked whoever. Dragon Lee's probably going to lose to Apollo Crews. I like Apollo Crews. He's really talented, and I don't know how old he is. I think he might be getting up there in age, so give him like 6 more years maybe, and then after that he'll probably be done. As I said, I really like how he wrestles, all that. He is 37. Wow, he is older than I thought he was. Nevertheless, 37. That's my point. He's a bit older, so he can get it, and then he can hold it for a while. He has won like a lot of titles. I just don't think he's done anything to like put them in our memories. So Apollo, he can get this. He can do well with it, and then maybe make the speed title worth something. Loki, I forgot Dragon Lee even had the belt, or that the belts existed in the first place. Then the women's speed title, probably the least known about belt in ever. Candice LeRae currently holds it, and I guess Lyra Valkyrie is going to beat her for it. I don't know what to tell you, man. Then we move on to the tag team championships. Current Raw tag team champions, because I'm not bothering with the long-ass name, are the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar. I don't think they're going to lose. I was thinking about saying for a while after what I just said, but I just don't think they're going to lose. Very Braun Breaker-esque, they're not going to lose at all. Like, they are going to demolish everybody, because that is how they should be booked. I think you can have the Eric gets beat up a little bit, and then Ivar comes in and wrecks house and whatever. Like, you can do that formula, and it will always work. So they're going to hold this belt for a while, if not forever. But I do think the Wyatt Six will be the ones to eventually dethrone them for it. I was looking at the Raw tag team scene, and there's the New Day. That one's like, okay. There's the Wyatt Six. There's like 2 other tag teams that I was like, it's just no. It's not happening. And the Wyatt Six, I feel there's a lot of missed opportunity with them. You ever seen like the uncanny valley of like people? Like, there's line going up as to like closer to humanoid, and then right before you get to humanoid, there's a massive dip where you don't really know if it's animal or other thing or human. Yeah. If this was their careers from jobber to star, they are in the uncanny valley because they can be anything at any time. I have not seen a single thing about them for like months. And I know they're doing stuff. I'm pretty sure they're involved with The Miz right now. But I don't know. Maybe they'll win the belts. They should. They're good. Last time I saw them, which was forever ago. But nevertheless, just somebody to beat the War Raiders. I don't know. Then on the SmackDown side of things, I think DIY, I picked a team that has not wrestled a match in like a month. And I don't know if there's a reason for that. I was looking at Cage Match. But I guess Pretty Deadly. I don't really know, if I'm being honest. I don't really watch wrestling as much as I used to, as I said, especially not the tag team scene. So I just looked through the SmackDown tag teams. They were on there. They're good. Hopefully they end up winning the belts. I looked on their Wikipedia, it didn't have anything about like an injury or anything like that. So I sure hope they're doing fine. They just haven't wrestled in a hot minute. Good luck to them. DIY is basically a heel tag team now. Maybe they can have some shenanigans in there and Pretty Deadly end up getting the win. Then the last belts we are going to be looking at the women's tag team championships. You can Photoshop Naomi over Jade Cargill here. This one's weird. I mentioned these two earlier. I don't know if it's like just the women's tag team scene or that I can't think of anybody. I picked these two. What's their name? It's Kaden and Katana, but don't they have like a party tag team name? It's like KC squared. I know that. Nevertheless, they're probably going to end up winning the belts. I don't really know. It's probably going to be Jade comes back, and she knows it's Bianca, turns on her in the match, and then they end up picking up the win. They leave, and then Jade points at the screen and shows, "Oh, Bianca was the one who attacked her." Whoa, whatever. I don't know. Any women's tag team could fill in that blank and just take the titles. Anyways, I don't know when that breakup will happen. It's probably going to break up around Elimination Chamber or so. Maybe not at the pay per view. Maybe on a SmackDown nearby. But I do think it'll end up being KC squared that end up picking up the dub. Now let's run through these quickly one more time, just in case you missed anything. So we have KC squared winning the women's tag team titles. SmackDown tag titles go to Pretty Deadly. Raw tag titles go to the Wyatt Six. Women's speed, Lyra Valkyria. Men's speed, Apollo Crews. Women's US, Michin. US for men, Jimmy Uso. International. This is not AEW. Intercontinental, Sheamus. I haven't thought about the international title in like a year. Anyways, women's SmackDown title, Tiffany Stratton. Women's Raw title, Rhea Ripley. Men's Raw title, Gunta to CM Punk. And men's SmackDown title, currently, technically, held by Kevin Owens, but he'll be the one to dethrone Cody. Anyways, so that's who I think will be dethroning every current WWE champion. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please let me know. And as I mentioned in my return video, please be gracious. I am very rusty, so if I stuttered or if I paused or if I misspoke, if I misspoke, please be aware of that. I'm going to try and focus up and get a little bit more back into the routine soon. Expect some football stuff coming out next, so I'm going to make something probably about next week's predictions. Nevertheless, make sure to have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good dawn, good desk, good whatever. Make sure to watch any former or future episodes on this channel, and goodbye.